Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gritty Hour. I have a very special guest, a man I'm proud to call a friend, a music producer and a guitarist extraordinaire. I have Mr. Paul Pesco, who's played with Steve Winwood, Joan Baez, Madonna, Cher, Whitney Houston, Hall and Oates, you name it, he's played with them. And welcome to the Gritty Hour, Paul.
Hey, those names sound familiar.
Yeah, I've
I've heard
heard
of
of
them
them all.
before.
Yeah,
Well,
um,
thank you, Tom. It's nice
yeah.
to be here.
Oh, we're certainly
Oh,
honored to have
Nico's
you.
too. He's taking a nap. My dog's
Yes,
napping on my lap.
that's
He's
all
taking
right.
a nap on the lap.
That's all right. He's doing what I feel like doing, but don't worry about it. So
Yeah,
he looks
exactly.
comfortable. Yeah.
He
So
is. He is comfortable.
as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm proud to call Paul a friend, and we see each other. We both live in the same small town here, and we see each other often when you're walking the dog. And
Yes.
I've always wanted to ask you, what was on 15-year-old Paul Pesco's turntable?
That's a great question because there there were a number of things, but primarily I'd have to say it was the Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies
Mm-hmm.
album.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it would be that or the Hendrix Experience, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Smash Hits,
Mm-hmm.
which was a great. Somehow these two records appeared at my house. My older sister, one of her friends, just left those two records, and they never left the turntable for a good year or so. I mean, I was just obsessed with those records and just kind of listening, trying to figure out how he was getting those sounds from a guitar. It was just, to me, it was mind-boggling. I couldn't, I didn't really play electric guitar yet. I was just learning. I had
Mm-hmm.
started, a couple of years before with acoustic guitar I was taking lessons at school and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
was
cool.
just. But at the same time, it's funny because my dad is a classical musician. He's an opera singer and music teacher. He would be listening to opera and working on. He was singing professionally when I was 15. We were living in, well, actually we had just moved back from Germany. Had lived in Germany for 5 years, and my dad sang professionally. And so I was immersed in the opera world, so to speak, just by virtue of being my dad's son.
Mm-hmm.
The family, we would go watch dad work. Um, but being around an orchestra and rehearsals and stuff was just, doesn't everybody's dad do that, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, so it wasn't something I thought of as being terribly unique,
Yeah.
you know but so I'd be around classical music, and then I discovered Hendrix, Simon and Garfunkel, James Taylor. It's funny, there were various influences. Like the first song I ever learned was kind of like a classic from my era, of growing up, but it was House of the Rising Sun,
Ah,
which was
yeah.
kind of the first song everybody learned,
Yeah. Yeah.
in those days.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind
Very,
of
very,
showing my
yeah.
age.
No, that's all right.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
the Animals.
Well, you can't
Um,
go wrong with those, and then you ended up playing with some of those people, right?
yeah, I ended up playing House of the Rising Sun with Joan Baez,
Wow.
which was amazing. I toured with Joan for 9 years, and
Mm-hmm.
we have it's just such a cool experience, and I didn't fully grasp it when I started working with her, and just how incredible it was. But we got to travel the world, play in France, all over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so much fun, and I learned so much from her, that just like how to play "Don't Think Twice," kind of the way she learned it from Dylan.
Right.
To be that one
One step
stage of
removed. Yeah.
one step removed,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Well,
stuff
she
like
she
that is
has.
really
I was gonna say she has
oh,
such a powerful voice, also.
incredible
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, she's somebody who really kind of studies and loves opera. So that she's had some coaching, and and has worked her instrument, so she has the power of an opera singer, and the
Right, she does.
vibrato.
Yeah, you can almost recognize the style. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
she loves, like, we would talk about, her favorite opera singers. She loves UC Björling and Nikolai Gedda and some of these amazing lyrical tenors, and I grew up like listening to them just as much as I did Jimi Hendrix. It's kind of funny
Hmm.
how the music and motifs from operas and from like people like Puccini and Verdi have crept up into my musicianship. It's how, and just like, I'll be playing on something, and oftentimes my job is as a studio musician is to come in and kind of flesh out, or this is how the song goes, but it needs something, but I don't know but what do you think? And then so people like me come in and we kind of throw things up at the wall, go, well, what do you think of this? I can do that. And
Yeah,
like the Hank Ballards, the George Harrisons,
yeah. Like
Larry
an
Carlton, you
augmentation.
know,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, you go in and you kind of give impressions on what, like a song will be laid out, like a songwriter will go there and kind of go through the chords.
Hmm.
Um, a good example would be like with the Beatles, there were all these songs, but George would just come up with like a two or three note line that would perfectly set up the vocals. Meanwhile, these guys have been working on songs for weeks and had written the lyrics and they had their song form.
Hmm.
George would just come up with something right there in the studio. Well, what do you think of do da da da? All of a sudden, it sets up the melody and everything,
It
and he
makes the
would just come
song.
up with
Yeah.
stuff like that on the spot. But that's what people like, the session musicians, that's what their job is, in a way, to kind of come up with magic in the
Hmm.
moment. And
You
I've
ever
been lucky enough to be.
have you ever worked with Steve Gadd,
I
the drummer?
I have not. No, I know
Hmm.
Steve fairly well. We've gotten to hang out, and we're both from Rochester, so he considers me a homeboy.
Oh.
It's like, so.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I've worked with most of the great drummers. I have not gotten a chance to play with Steve yet,
Hmm.
but that I plan on changing. I
The
work
key
with
word is yet.
Weckl. I work with Dave. Oh yeah, yet is the key word.
Hmm.
I work with Dave Weckl. I work with Steve Ferroni, Omar Hakim, some of the finest drummers in the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I've been spoiled for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sean Pelton,
Hmm.
who actually worked recently. I worked with Sean on a film soundtrack. There's a movie out recently. It came out last September, I believe. Um, it's called Respect. It's a movie about. It's the story of Aretha Franklin,
Right.
of her recordings, and Jennifer Hudson plays Aretha, and it was amazing. Sean Pelton is a drummer I was mentioning. He's the drummer with the SNL band, Saturday Night Live,
Yeah.
and he's worked with me a lot on Daryl Hall's solo album, and we worked together with Hall and Oates on Live from Daryl's House,
Hmm.
which you'll see Sean playing drums at times. He's just a phenomenal drummer.
Well,
Just
I'll
such
mention to
pocket.
anyone. I'll mention to anyone listening. You can check on YouTube. I've already mentioned this to Paul. Um, there's a song called when you were at live at Daryl's house. I think this was in Hawaii, and it was Daryl Hall and Todd Rundgren, and you were
The
sitting in the
Todd
middle.
Rundgren episode. Yes.
Yeah, you were doing a version of "Didn't I Blow Your Mind" this time by the Delphonics. And
An
there's a
incredible song.
yeah, but
Incredible song.
there's a great you do a nice guitar solo in the middle, but the outro of it really sticks in my head. So I recommend that
Wow.
video. You can find it on YouTube. I recommend it to anyone listening or watching us right now to check out.
I have to. Well, I'm gonna go check it out again.
Yeah,
I
you
have to
probably forgot
refresh my
about it
memory.
too. The outro back into the third chorus is really special.
I
Really
gotta
good.
check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, for me, that's just such a treat. I'm like the hugest Todd Rundgren fan, and of course, working with Daryl, was just such a treat and an honor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I came up in the 70s, like we were talking, and listening to a lot of their music when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, She's Gone. Uh, Sarah Smile was like a big song, you know.
Yeah. And
And
Sarah was lived in our town for a while too, right? Oh, so did Daryl actually.
yeah,
Oh,
I think
Daryl
she
does.
does. I think Sandy. We call her Sandy. That's her name,
Mm-hmm.
Sandy Allen.
Mm-hmm.
That's who Sarah Smile was written about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she was on the town board here in Millbrook, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But she's
You,
still around. I see her. I run into her at Moronis every once in a while.
you just told me the other night that Steve Miller moved here. The Steve Miller band, Steve Miller.
I think so. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think so. That's what I was told. But
Mm-hmm.
it'd be fun to work with him.
There you
Get him to
go.
come
Get
over
him
to the
over to
studio.
your studio and rock and roll
Come on,
sometime.
man.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's make
We'll,
music.
we'll change Millbrook to Swingtown. We'll call it Swingtown. But
Yeah, man.
you mentioned earlier that the movie Respect with Jennifer
Yes, I
Hudson.
did.
You worked on that movie, correct?
I worked on it. I did all of the studio scenes. Did the lion's share of the guitar work on for that movie. Not everything, but some of the coolest scenes. All the stuff where they're working out the parts is fun because it was fun to do it because it offers the kind of a bird's eye view or a kind of a fly on the wall
Uh-huh.
view or perspective of what goes on and kind of what I do every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Swampers down in Mississippi, and they're in the studio working on, just, well, what do you think of this? Trying various songs with Aretha
Mm-hmm.
to try to find the right vibe. And
And
then
you played one of the Swampers?
I played both.
Oh.
Both the guitar players. Well, there's actors, and they're players. They're good musicians. Actually, they hired actors who could actually play,
Mm-hmm.
but they wanted it to sound studio and authentic. So I ended up dubbing in the guitars
Mm-hmm.
for the various parts. And in those studio scenes, I actually play both. I put in the sound for both guitarists.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's a scene where they're figuring out the parts for the beginning of Respect, and one guitarist, well, there's Jimmy Johnson, and totally the other guitar player is escaping my mind, but he's going, well, he would play a telly most of the time, and Jimmy would play a country gentleman, a Gretsch, and they have two such distinctive sounds, but the one guitar player would be, what do you think of this, Aretha? Like that iconic, distinctive part. He
Mm-hmm.
he's going through that, and I got to put that sound in and really kind of add life to that scene.
And I believe that movie was nominated for an Academy Award, yes?
It actually was nominated for a Grammy
Oh,
for
Grammy.
soundtrack. There were
Okay.
two Grammy. It was nominated for two Grammys. Unfortunately, didn't win, but just being nominated is an honor. And
The fix was in, Paul. The
so.
fix was in. Yeah.
I'm just psyched to be part of it,
Yeah.
and
No, that's
to
very cool.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
involved. And it's an honor. It's an honor. Stephen Bray brought me in on that. He is let me turn this off. Oh, that's the mastering engineer that I'm working with.
Mm.
Stephen Bray brought me in, who's the drummer from the original Madonna band, also from a band called the Breakfast Club, which you might have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen and I have worked together forever, since those early days. We haven't stopped, and he's done quite well. He co-composed the stage play, the musical version of The Color Purple, the Broadway musical version, which now is being made into a film. So it's just, I'm just so psyched and honored when when Stephen calls, because it's
Yeah.
usually something very, very cool.
Well, you
And
played
he brought me in.
on Madonna's albums. Oh, you actually toured with Madonna also, yes?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
I've done two tours with Madonna. I did the Virgin tour, the very first one, which you may recognize me from the Dress You Up in My Love video, where I get a cool guitar solo. And then I did the Girly Show in '93 with her for the Erotica album, which was very cool.
Yeah.
And we flew around the world in our own jet, and MGM Grand plane. And
Wow.
I was stashing things that I was buying, souvenirs from all the various countries. Two didgeridoos from Australia.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you went to Asia. Yeah. I'm sure Madonna
Yeah,
went to
well,
Asia.
we did. We played in Turkey. We played in. We played in Japan. We played Tokyo Dome. We did a week at Tokyo Dome, and sold out every night. It's insane.
Yeah, that must have been quite the experience because that's a different level of celebrity, right? At the time.
It was incredible. I've been lucky to kind of be part of several different artists, huge success stories. It's I'm just very fortunate. I've been with Madonna when she really kind of rose to her just skyrocketed to fame. I worked with a group called C+C Music Factory.
Yeah, there it is.
Which
is
everybody might know.
Is that Whoop?
They did a song called Sweat. Oh, no. They did Everybody Dance.
Oh, yeah. That you on the guitar?
I did the
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's me.
I still like you.
There's
Don't
a
worry.
song called and they had a big song called Things That Make You Go and that starts just like the first 8 bars or the 16 bars of the song are just my guitar. So when that was on the radio, I was just like, it was surreal because I would be walking around the city or something, and it would be playing coming out of a store or a magazine stand or something, and I'd be hearing my guitar everywhere. So I was like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, I've always meant to ask you what that's like to like walk into, because I see you like in the local stores around here sometimes, and like there's one store that plays music all the time, and every once in a while I'll hear a Madonna. I just wondering what that feels like to come into a store to buy, a pint of ice cream.
You, it never gets old.
I can imagine.
It never gets old. It's always, I always get jazzed hearing myself in a film. Actually, in the big theater, in the movie theater with the big screen, and hearing the music full like that is just, there's no better experience for me. I love it. I love playing live, but I love working on film and stuff equally. It's something you never get. I never get used to it, and I never take it for granted. It's such a great experience. I love it.
Well, you've always been a guitarist in demand, that's for sure, because you work well with a lot of different personalities, including myself. You work well with me.
Well, there you go. Well, I take it from. It's kind of funny. There are certain ways to really kind of approach doing what I do. And I kind of take the blank slate approach. I don't come in with any kind of preconceived notion of what I'm going to do or even how I'm going to play. There are a lot of players who are very stylized. They have their thing that they do. Like there's a lot of guys who are blues guitar players. They'll have. I'm not that I can't play the blues, but I wouldn't consider myself a blues guy. Although it's definitely something that's part of my vocabulary, and I love it. I absolutely love the blues, and I can play the blues, but I don't. By that same token, I don't consider myself a heavy metal dude either. But I can play those. Those are all just kind of things or accents, or like what an actor would go in. Not saying that I don't genuinely feel these the styles or the emotion behind it, but I like to go. I like to be almost like a chameleon of sorts. I can meld with the surroundings,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been a reason that people call me back, or that I get to work with so many different artists. I could play with the Joan Baez and then turn around and work with C+C Music Factory, and then do a Michael Bolton record or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then go audition for the Chili Peppers, even, and they'll look at me like, "Well, you play with Michael Bolton. Why do you want to play with us?" I'm like, "Cause I love your music, man." But so but the thing is, that's my approach,
Yeah,
and I
that's
try
been
to,
your secret ingredient. Yeah.
yeah, kind of keep it a blank slate. I go in with a blank slate, and I meld with the surroundings, much like a chameleon, and I try to complement the melody at all times,
Mm-hmm.
and really,
Mm-hmm.
versus a lot of other players have a different approach. They'll come in, they have their thing that they do, and then they plug it in, and they just do it on there. Like, let's say, when Eddie Van Halen played the guitar solo on "Beat It," he did his thing, and did the tapping, all that, and that's what they wanted, and that was
Mm-hmm.
cool. That was very cool, and it's like a feature.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas oftentimes, I'll come in and I'll help just put the bed, the foundation of a track together. And if, it's funny, a friend of mine actually said to me once, he goes, "You play on all these records, and I listen to it, and I'm listening for you. And sometimes it's like you're like the invisible guitarist." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, oftentimes it's like I'm like really listening to hear you, but then I realize you're blending with the sound. Your acoustic guitar is blending with the ride cymbal and the
Mm-hmm.
keyboards, and it's all one." I'm like, "Well, then that's good, because I consider it like it's a I'm yet an ingredient in this soup, or
Mm-hmm.
in this sauce, and if you can taste the salt in something, there's probably too much salt."
Mm.
And I try to approach it from that as well. I try to just add what's necessary, and blend in with the music, and
That's why your
that
phone
that's
keeps ringing,
so
Paul.
I took it as a I actually so that I took the invisible guitarist as a compliment. And I said, "Well, I'm going to use that. It's probably going to be the title of my autobiography, Paul Pesco, the
Yeah,
invisible guitarist."
there you go. Um, do some artists, when they have you in for a session, do they want something specific, or do they let you do your blending?
Oftentimes, I've had people just that would write it out, like working with Arif Mardin, who is just the producer of Shaka Khan. He produced Aretha Franklin. He worked with Aretha back in the day. Produced Shaka Khan, Rufus, Average White Band, Hall and Oates. One of the greatest producers of all time, Arif Mardin, and definitely one of my heroes. He would sit there and write out parts. Goes, "Oh, I have a guitar part here." He'd write it out. I'd be like, "Oh man, this is like school," but that he would be very specific about what he wanted, and then just double it, and make it sound fabulous, fabulous, Paul. You know, so from Turkey, really
Uh-huh.
just great. But like versus let's say going into the studio with Madonna, where she's like, "I know what I don't want." Okay, that's where she starts, but she would have an idea of what she wanted, but maybe not an exact thing. So I would experiment and come up with parts. Like and there's a song called "Lucky Star," and basically that session was done in 20 minutes. I came in, and the song was grooving, and I said, "Well, what do you think of this?" And she says, "Oh, that's great," and within 20 minutes it was done.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that song just lives on. I wish I didn't. I sold the guitar I played that track on. It was
Mm.
a reissue Fender 57 Fender Strat, but I didn't know that song would be, yeah, as big as it got, or had lasted that long.
Right. Yeah.
And the sound of that guitar, I was like, "Man, maybe I shouldn't have gotten rid of that guitar," but
I
I have
uh,
others.
I have to ask you what's on your plate right now, without giving too much information away.
Okay, well, I'm working with several artists. There's an artist named Liv Hannah that I've been co-producing with Guy Eckstein, who's a very good friend and an associate of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Guy is the son of the famous jazz singer Billy Eckstein,
Mm-hmm.
who's if you go back, you'll he was just one of the powerhouses of jazz and uh, one of the major influences on Frank Sinatra. He looked up to Billy Eckstein,
Mm-hmm.
and Guy is one of his sons who I'm friends with, and we've been working together for years. Oh, this is Nico's awake, and he's awake now.
Yes.
Um, but we're producing this girl, Liv Hannah, who is just so we're so impressed with her and so happy. She's just is spitting out songs. She's just writing like she'll write like 2 3 songs a week, and it's incredible.
It's
Um,
Livhanna.
yeah, Liv Olivia, Liv Hannah,
Mm-hmm.
and she's currently at University of Miami at the Frost Music School,
Mm-hmm.
and we're really
So
excited about her.
that's coming down the
Working with
pike then.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
a singer named Connor Antico, who's actually is the male lead of the Broadway musical called Small Town, the John Mellencamp musical based
Okay.
on the song Small Town,
Right.
and it features all his music. Connor uh, is uh, is the male lead of this. We're working on his solo material, which is really strong. He's got such a great voice. And we'll be performing soon. I'll send you some music to play as soon as we finish up. I just finished an album. Well, actually, the first half of an album with Lee Labrada, who's a famous bodybuilder and businessman who owns a great nutritional supplement company called Labrada Nutrition. We have a band called Labrada, which I'm a part of, and we were on album number 3 right now, and it's what's the oh yeah the it's called faith-based metal, or it's heavy rock,
Mm-hmm.
with the we like to think of it as like Alice in Chains with a Christian message,
Ah,
and it's just really strong. We're really happy with the first 4 songs, and I'll have to send you a couple things to play.
definitely.
We're
Yeah.
talking about this music, but I'm sure people would be interested in hearing it.
Oh,
You can go
sure.
to Spotify, actually. I gave you that link, and
Yeah,
some of the
I
Labrada
should
album.
interject that during the at right below this podcast in the show notes will be the link to his to Paul's Spotify.
Right, there's a Spotify Paul Pesco Select playlist, which has about 9 hours of music on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have everything, but it has a lot of the most famous records that I've played on, and whatever was on Spotify. There's actually I couldn't believe this. I played on this Al Green record, who for me that's such a great honor. I'm like the hugest Al Green fan,
Oh yeah.
but he did an album with Arthur Baker in the early '90s, and Arthur and I had run into each other at the MTV Awards, and there was
Uh-huh.
there was a dinner at Spago in
Spargo. Yeah.
LA, which is
Yes.
that Spago,
Yes.
and it was Mariah. We were at Mariah's party at
Ah.
Spago,
Yes. Ten
and
dollars for a
Arthur's
glass of
like,
water.
Paul, I'll be in the studio tomorrow. I'm working on this film. It's called Fried Green Tomatoes. Are you available? What are you doing? Are you around? So I ended up working on the movie soundtrack for Fried Green Tomatoes, from running into Arthur at Mariah's party at Spago. And after playing that, I ended up playing on the Al Green record with Arthur back here in New York. And there's a song called "Love Is a Beautiful Thing," and it's it's an awesome song. For me, it's just such an honor because I get to play with one of my heroes. I love. I kind of. It's funny, a lot of people just play rock, or identify. Like I was saying, they identify with one style. I identify with all styles, but I listened to a lot of R&B in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Living in Germany, I would listen to the AFN network, the Armed Forces Network,
Mm-hmm.
or American Forces Network. And in the early 70s, when we were living there, pop music of the day was bands like the Spinners, Al Green, Stevie Wonder. Superstition was huge.
Mm-hmm.
James Brown, Bobby Womack,
Mm-hmm.
Teddy Pendergrass, Bill Withers. I'm naming all these R&B acts. Sly and the Family Stone. That, and then there were bands like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, that were making it through onto pop radio. I remember Smoke on the Water was big.
Oh yeah.
On the
Oh my God, was it
in
big?
those, in those
Jeez.
years, like in 1972. You know,
Every 20 minutes I heard
but
that song.
as affected by rock as I was, and listening to Hendrix and wanting to get those sounds, and listening to people like Carlos Santana. Santana was a big influence on me as well. I just, listened to Abraxas to no end with
Mm-hmm.
just total amazement. This, how are they getting this sound? It was mystical to
Mm-hmm.
me. It was like, um, but I've digressed back into my
Well,
past,
you,
but
you 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 mentioned Stevie Wonder. Didn't you end up working with him too?
I've played on things with Stevie. I've never played on any of his solo albums, but I have performed with him live
Uh-huh.
several times.
Mm-hmm.
And we there was this dinner for that Holly Robinson and throws for her father passed away from cancer, and so she has the actress Holly Robinson has a benefit dinner in memorial
Uh-huh.
in for her father, in tribute to her father. And this one year while I was living in LA and playing with Peter Michael Escovedo, who's of the Escovedo family, the famous Escovedos.
Mm-hmm.
Sheila E. You may have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
that's
Speaking of
his
drummers,
sister.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and Peter Michael is, they're just monster talents. They can play anything,
Mm-hmm.
any style, any instrument. He's just a monster, and a
Mm-hmm.
great singer, great lyricist, just all around,
Mm-hmm.
quadruple threat. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he was the MD. We were the band for the Wayne Brady show when he had a talk show, the morning talk show,
Mm-hmm.
and so we would do a lot of gigs. We got called to back up Stevie Wonder, and so for me that was just like the coolest thing
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
in my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we started recording tonight, I asked you what you have on your agenda, and you named those. I'll definitely keep an ear out for Liv Hannah and the other folks you mentioned. But you're working on a video that you were just telling me
Well,
about.
I've been working on some music with a very very good friend of mine, this an amazingly talented musician named Gary Meek, who we toured with Jeff Lorber together. We also played in um, Herb Alpert's band. We toured with Herb in the '90s. We did his Second Wind album, um, which was quite amazing. Herb is just a great guy, great musician. He's, what a sound, right? His
Mm-hmm.
It's so distinctive, and he's done very well. Well, he's the A of A&M Records,
Mm-hmm.
Alpert and Moss, but
Mm-hmm.
he's done well. We toured in style with Herb. We had two Learjets, one for the luggage and the other for the band.
Wow.
And so we had a great. We played in some amazing places and flew around the country in Learjets.
Nice.
It was
Yeah.
yeah. So, but Gary Meek and I have been working together. We played with Dave Weckl on the Multiplicity record. We've worked on some other things with him, but we started writing some music together and just kind of sending sessions back and forth over the internet during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
during this lockdown.
Right.
And so we actually have started this new music project, and we call the band. Really, it's he and I are the core of it, and we rounded out with some of our friends. on this first offering. The song is called "What Happened to My Big What Happened to My Good Shoes," is the name of the song, and the name of the band is Supersonic Tortoise.
And you were
And
gracious enough to send me. I know the link is not publicly available, but with your permission, I'd like to play it.
Right, yes, it's
Yeah.
private right now. Yes, please play it.
And we'll play
What
it
Happened to
in-
My Good Shoes?
If you don't mind, maybe occasionally you and I talking over it. I'll play it as we go.
Okay, you got it, man.
Yeah. And then you can maybe describe what we're looking at.
Okay, well, let me. I can tell you a little bit about it. It features the art of Tom Reyes,
Mm-hmm.
the Souche, and he paints. Here's the blank slate or the blank palette. What Happened to My Good Shoes 2.0. It's actually, he released this. So there's Tom starting the painting.
There's you.
It's me.
Has a nice bass
Hans
sound.
Klavishnik on bass.
What's his name?
And that's Hans Klavishnik on bass.
He's awesome bass.
There's Gary. That's Gary Meek. The percussionist, that's Scott. Okay, the drummer is Skylar Campbell. And the percussionist is Danny Sadownik, who's currently playing with Josh Groban. We'll be touring with him. They're in rehearsal right now. As we speak. Yep, there's Danny.
Are you all together, or is this separate?
No, well, I'll tell you, these are separate sessions in various places in the world. The artist is in Tokyo. The bass player is in San Francisco. Gary Meek and the drummer are in Monterey, California, and I'm in Millbrook. Oh, and Danny Sadownik is in Rockville Center, Long Island. So we're all like just kind of, it's international.
And who's the percussionist? The guy on the bongos?
That's Danny Sadownik.
Okay.
He's the percussionist for Josh Groban and Michael Brecker and many, many others.
Yeah, you might see him soon. I think Josh Groban's playing near here in July.
Yeah, he's right. They're in rehearsal. I'm literally, as we speak, I know that Danny's been rehearsing every day. Oh, look, there's Nico. Nico's in the video.
Is he?
Yeah,
Makes
he
a
was right
cameo?
next to me. Yeah, Nico's on a chair behind me. Oh, this is the rap section. That's Kirk Harper.
Wow. Who did the production of the video?
Gary did. He edited it. He did all the editing and compiled. We all shot the video with our phones. Send it to him.
There you go. And did you all come up with your own parts? Including the little solo there?
Yeah, yes. Well, basically, I'm playing melody, so that's something that was composed by Gary. But and he's soloing over it. So it's but I produced and mixed this recording.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
I co-produced it with
That
Gary.
must have been quite the dance to mix it all.
Yeah, it was fun. I got to throw in some ideas. I said, well, what about it? Let's get Kirk Harper to do a rap, and let's get Danny Sadownik on percussion, and Hans on bass.
Mm-hmm.
There's the finished painting.
Interesting. Very
So,
cool.
which the painting will be is going to be offered as an NFT, and when you buy the NFT, you will get actually a physical copy, a print, a limited, signed limited print of the actual painting.
And this is the introduction of all the
Yeah.
musicians.
Yeah, the credits.
Yeah, a lot of creative things happened during the shutdown, during the COVID, during the pandemic, you know.
It's true. That's true. I'll tell you, man, Hans is a great bass player.
He really is. Had a nice sound to it. He had a nice
And look
riff
at the
going.
painting.
Cool.
And of course, Kirk Carver, words rap in all of his shoes and glasses.
Well,
So
you
he
know,
has them.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I know you're friends with what's the fellow's name from the Jerky
With
Boys?
Johnny Brennan.
Oh,
Johnny Brennan.
I know, but it did when I saw the title of this video before we started recording. It's the first thing I thought of was the Jerky Boys. But that's
So
cool. That was
Supersonic
very cool.
Tortoise.
That was very cool.
That's okay. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
yeah.
Thank you. Supersonic Tortoise, which is really kind of a. It's funny because Gary and I both relate to the tortoise and the hare. The fable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely the tortoise. I've been in this for so long, and I just keep putting one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward. And it's funny if you're with me or if you're like right next, it's like it's hard to see. It's like, is there progress happening or what's happening? It's not happening fast enough. And the things that's how it works in a way. I mean, like people who work on film, people who work in production.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, it's funny how progress happens, or it doesn't seem like things are happening or they're happening in a vacuum or in slow motion somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But and then all of a sudden you look back and you see how much ground you've covered, and you just go, oh goodness.
Yeah.
So the name Supersonic Tortoise is kind of it's an oxymoron, and I love it because I relate to it so much. I am like the tortoise. There's been a lot of hares that have raced by me, and I don't know where they are. I'm still headed, I'm on my path.
Yeah, and you feel sometimes like nothing's happening quick enough, and then you turn around and you realize you checked a lot of things off the checklist. You didn't even realize it.
Exactly. And I have no preconceived notion of how things are supposed to be, but it's interesting because I remember like my parents, my dad would come, sit down and talk to me about things. And when I was first starting out, and I kind of already had this mindset, I really haven't changed much other than I keep learning more things, and I'm constantly studying, and I feel like I'm still in school, but life is school. It's because I'm not in in some sort of formal program. I'm constantly, you can see my bookshelf is full of amps and books, stuff to make noise and something to teach me what, I'm trying to gather as much knowledge you never stop.
Yeah, well, that's your approach to life is the same as your approach to music, and
Yeah,
that is your
true.
secret ingredient, and you shouldn't change,
No,
Like I said before,
no.
that's why your phone keeps ringing. Same reason.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And now that we kind of sort of seem like we're coming out of the pandemic, I don't want to speak too soon, but maybe things will start opening up.
Things are starting to open up. It's not over, but I think we're all kind of over it. I know a lot of people are over it, but at the same time, we can't let our guard completely down.
No.
I think it's just part of it.
You just have to live life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the flu. It's not gone. It won't be gone, but it just won't be as devastating to us. And we're going to learn to deal with it. And to, it's just.
It seems to be, as you know, I'm a lover of history. I have the Antique Center here. It seems to be precisely the way the last pandemic went in 1917, 18, 19.
Right. The Spanish flu. True. So true. And the thing is, the flu is something that's still with us. It happens every flu season we have, right?
Right.
We have now we're in the allergy season, which my wife is learning about. But it's.
Well, one good thing that came out of the pandemic, Paul, was I got you to gig in front of my shop a couple of times, so that was an upside.
Yes, you did. That was
at least from my point of view. You were able to come back to earth for a couple of hours and play for the peeps in front of my store.
I love it. No, listen, I absolutely love playing wherever. I like finding somewhere to just, it doesn't have to be on a huge stage in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
I'll still play the same way, and I love it because it's just another opportunity to make music, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll make a tradition out of it. You come back this summer, we'll
do it. Yeah. Let's do it.
And
I'm
what was
down.
the other fellow?
I'm
You had
ready.
the guy on the upright bass, and I'm
Oh, I had
Lou
Louis Louis Pappas,
Lou Pappas.
great
Yes,
bass player,
he
man.
was great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Louis.
I enjoyed
Yeah,
that
we're actually
immensely.
working on a song together. We're working on something. It's called Papas Fritas.
Ah,
So it's gonna be like kind of a Latin thing.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's a concept right now, but
as you know, it's always
I'm
been a
gonna get him
dream.
over there.
Always been a dream of mine to hook you up with Larry Ham, great piano player here in
Yeah, yeah,
Millbrook.
for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah, Larry's excellent, man. I love Larry's playing.
I know you've met him, but I'm not sure you've ever worked together.
We haven't had a chance to play yet, but we
All right,
will.
all
We
right.
will soon.
The nuggets in my head now, because he played in front of my
You got
store
it.
too. So
Right. So we have to we'll do it together
I'll just
soon.
have you and Larry Ham and Lou Pappas come and play in front of the store one day this summer.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it would be amazing for me, that's for sure. But before I let you go, I'm gonna. What's the fellow's name from the Jerky Boys?
Johnny Brennan.
You know what?
I'm gonna bring him over and we're gonna
Right
come hang
now.
out.
I'm giving him
Let's
a.
prank him.
I'm giving him a an open invitation to be on the podcast, and you can co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have
Sounds
him
like a
on there,
plan.
or we'll take your tack and we'll just call him one day and where's my glasses and my shoes?
Right, exactly. I'm sorry. I feel very silly about this.
Oh yeah, no, we have to have him on the Gritty Hour. So, but
For sure.
I appreciate your time tonight, Paul. I'll probably see
You got
you
it, Tom.
on the streets. I'll see you on the streets, bro.
Yeah, yeah. I'll see you in the evening, man.
All right.
But thank you for having me, Tom. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much, and to our listeners and viewers, the links that we discussed during this podcast will be right below us in the show notes. So check out more as you can learn more about Paul Pesco. And thanks again, Paul. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Tommy. See you.